Part 2 of my interview with Michael-David Reilly continues this week on Rebuilding Me.
I do two things for myself when I go to bed and I wake up in the morning. I look at my wife, because she always passes out first on the couch, and I look at her and I let it soak in. And I'm present. I'm like, you know what? I never, ever want to lose her, ever, by my own doing. Tomorrow, I'm going to do something to earn her heart, love, and loyalty in a way that matters to her. And I've done that every day since day one. And what that does, and again, when I say I do things that matter to her, you've heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages, right?
Of course, yeah.
We speak and hear in different ways. But people talk, well, what do you want? If men and women took a moment to take a step back and look at how we show our love, that's what we're looking for, which is what you give.
And really understand what the other person responds to, what really makes them tick. That for those that don't know about the 5 Love Languages, one of my favorite books ever, we'll link it up in the comments below. Obviously, we'll make sure that people get it if they're interested. And
they have one written for singles.
Right.
Which is great. Because I remember when I came across that book, it was after my second divorce, and I saw the book, I was like, a piece of shit. And I threw it, and I literally tossed it behind me.
Yeah.
It was a couple months later, and I thought, wait a minute. I need to reread this as a single guy, thinking, because it's got to be more than liking the same peanut butter. We love concerts. How can I read this in the context of being single, so that now I can start knowing what to look for when I'm dating? It was now also understanding body language and the FBI interrogation tactics and knowing how to read people. And I took the 5 love languages from a single context. Game changer.
Yeah. And
absolutely game changer.
Apply that to relationships at work, or just relationships with other guys, and really find out, right, what do different guys respond to. Some guys really do value, hey, let's just get together, man, and just hang out on the couch and watch a game. Cool. If that's really what they respond to, awesome. Some guys really do want you to take an interest in whatever their craft is, and maybe, offer them some feedback and just pay attention to, because they like to get that affirmation piece, right? Most of us probably do prefer that. That's like one of our, preferred love languages as men, of course. That's mine anyway. I'll tell you that you can affirm me all day long and I'll be your best friend. But to apply that across the board and take it right outside of just the context of marriage it's an amazing experience if you can do it. And I think I wanted to make sure that I threw this out there too. I do want to, for anybody that maybe has heard of the love languages or Gary Chapman, and heard it's one of those church marriage books, I want to take that stigma off the plate for you 100,000% completely. Yes, there's some things about spirituality in there, and he's going to talk about God and, followers of Christ and all that good stuff. But here's the deal. It doesn't focus on that. What it really focuses on is your relationship with the other person and how to effectively be in relationship with that other person. There's a difference between just being in a relationship and being in relationship. And this book,
and building one,
anybody that I've ever given it to, whether they're believers or not, or go to church or don't, or agnostic or atheist, doesn't matter. I've handed this book to people, and it changed their entire dynamic of their relationship. So,
it's the Rosetta Stone of love.
It is. Yeah, that's a great analogy, man. It's fantastic. I love it.
And whether it's in a marriage, it's in dating, engagement, or if it's in business, if you don't earn the loyalty, love, and heart of what values most to you every single day, you're giving room for somebody else to do it.
Right.
And you only have yourself to blame. If you're in business and you're a service business, or you're a mechanic, or you're a dentist, or you're a restaurant, if you don't actively daily do things that matter to your customers, that matter to your clients, you're ultimately setting yourself up to lose those customers and clients, because you yourself didn't do what you needed to do to earn their loyalty.
100%.
And you left them, you actually drove them to someone else. When a person's well has run dry, when they walk by somebody else's booth that they're baking fresh bread, they're going to start giving that booth some attention.
Right.
That could, for me, if I'm not attending to the needs of my wife and loving her and giving her things, then there's going to be somebody else, some other guy out there that's going to spit some shade and start planting some seeds, and I'm the only one to blame.
Right.
Even cheating. Cheating, I tell them all the time, it sucks that they cheat. Yes, it was their choice to cheat on you, but what did you do to drive them to it? Because you have to take ownership that you're either building that relationship or you're driving it apart by your own actions and reactions to everything. And, you know, in relationships, when you deal with conflict, my wife and I, and my wife being Sicilian, you know, she gets volumized.
I know it well. Absolutely.
And, you know, I was running this agency, and the moment I dropped through the doors, man, my life was chaos until I left at about 7. And she would text me. And this was when she was a school teacher, and I wouldn't be able to respond. And, you know, on my way home, I'd always call her so I could talk to her and the kids for the hour drive home.
Right.
And so I could at least still have some more time. And I would get home. She was like, honey, I texted you today. I was like, babe, I'm sorry. I just got really busy. And that kept being my excuse. And one day she was like, honey, it just bothers me. And I'm like, babe, but you know I love you. And then as soon as I said it, I went, oh, shit. I realized I wasn't listening to her need. She was being made to feel as if she wasn't important. And all she wanted was a text. I need to fix my shit. That's my responsibility, because right now she's feeling unloved and unearned. So what I did, because I live by my calendar, I'm practical. Give me an action step. So I went into my Google Calendar Monday through Friday. From here on out, there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is different times in morning and afternoon. And I get in the morning a reminder, text your wife. In the afternoon, ask your wife how her day was. And I get the notification on my phone. So I text her.
You actually have it on the calendar scheduled out.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Sure do.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Because it was my job to find a solution to the problem. I live by my calendar. Okay, so how do I use that tool to benefit my wife so that she gets what she needs and I can give her what she really is looking for, and that is to be made to feel as if she's still important. And she found this out. And she goes, that's funny. And I'm like, that doesn't make it feel weird that it's systematic? She goes, no, because the fact that you actually took the time to do that.
That's so cool, man. And, you know, because the 5 love languages really does dive into it. Shoving your way of loving somebody down someone else's throat that doesn't respond to that, even if you love each other and, you know, everything's fantastic, you're great partners in life, but that still doesn't quite fulfill the need the way that they need it. And so it's an important piece of discovery is to really find that out, right, about each other.
Well, yeah, and even conflict or, you know, disagreements, the reality is, you know, if I do or say something that offends, hurts, angers my wife, it doesn't matter the intent. The reality is I made her feel that way in something I did or said. So if I don't truly want to be the cause of pain and anger and a feeling of angst in her life,
right,
I need to take responsibility and not ever do that again. Because if you try to excuse and blame and defer, well, that's not what I meant to say. Doesn't matter what your intent was.
It happened.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and this is the other piece too, at least this is what I found in my experience, is that when those things happen, right, because listen, at the end of the day, we're human, so shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
So when it does happen, rather than going back to the other person and apologizing and saying, wow, I'm sorry, this is the key word is if. I'm sorry if I made you feel a certain way, right? Taking that one word out of that apology makes all the difference in the world. I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Again, owning it. And we do that a lot, right? We do a lot of the ifs. Well, I'm sorry if it made you feel weird, or I'm sorry if I offended you. But it's bigger than that, right? It's not about offering an apology just to say, oh, well, I said I'm sorry. What do you want? No, they want a genuine apology, not an I'm sorry, right? Of now maybe even explore, why are you apologizing? Are you apologizing because I love you and I care about you and I really do, I want to make this work? Or are you apologizing because you just don't want to hear any shit at the end of the night and you don't want to sleep on the couch, right? And so motives start to play into those things too. It's just an interesting, we could dive deep, right? If we had like 4 more hours, man, we could do let's do it sometime. Actually, let's come back and maybe explore just the relationship piece of just some of the stuff that you've discovered, because the book is brilliant. Your discovery of some of those things and your ability to just talk through it in a way that's real, you know, for guys to say, look, man, which is really, I'm interested in that. So you took successful photography business, which I'm very interested at some point. I'm sure you could share lots of stories, man, about some of the encounters that you've had, the people that you've met, the stuff that you've seen. We won't do that yet because I'm sure there's lawyers waiting in the wings to file suit. But regardless, you took that and then you shifted, right? So tell me about the shift and how did that come about? Because now you're working through a podcast, right?
Partly, yes. Let's see, when was it? I had a traditional agency when my second wife and I were married, and I started it because I got fired from a job, actually because of my best friend who called me out for being an asshole.
Oh, no kidding. You guys are still friends? Or not anymore? Are you guys still friends, or are you still talking? No, not anymore. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. No, it's not my responsibility to give somebody a second chance when they didn't earn it. Because as soon as somebody does that, you lose trust, and you can't have a fulfilling relationship with zero trust. Right. At all. And yes, I forgive him, but in his nature, he would totally do it again because everybody's out for themselves. Right. So pushed in a corner, everybody's gonna throw anybody they can underneath the bus to save their own bread. I mean, it's just human nature. Yeah. So again, by living with zero expectations of people, I deal with reality. And I'm like, look, dude, you did it. It was a best friendship, brothership, a broship of 10 years. And you threw it away for a job to make yourself look better for a job that he actually got fired for 6 months later. So, and he said, well, I wanted to try to make things right. I said, dude, you should have thought about that. Look, I wish you the best in life. Don't ever contact me again. Yeah. I want to be around people that I can depend on. I don't expect you to. I want to relieve you of that. But you've got to deal with the repercussions of your own decisions, and it's not my job to make you feel better. Just because you want to be made to feel better. You're not entitled to anything from me. You lost that. So bye. Right. And you have to be strong enough to protect yourself enough to be able to walk away from things like that. Or else people are just going to people will take as much as you give. Right. At some point, you have to protect your own well. And that was actually a lesson I got from my dad, who, even from as scripture, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. So if you keep letting people take out of your well, what do you have left? And yet we're guilted and manipulated into thinking because when you're a giver, you want to continue to help. And if you don't, then it's going against your moral thread. But you also have to consider where people are coming from and be protective. You want to help, but understand the different grades of help you can offer.
100%. Absolutely.
Right. And understand when you now show me your potential, now I see where I stand in your life. And that's not what I want to have close to me, but from afar. Right. Wish you the best.
And so $35K a day and the media company kind of grew out of that. Is that?
It did. Yeah. And, I've been in marketing and communications, relationship building, sales for 20 plus years. And everything I step into, I do really well at because I relate well to people, because I listen. If you're in sales and you walk into somebody's office, you look at their pictures, look at what's on their desk, get a feel what they're into. You look for all these things, and then you talk about them. Right. And when you start asking questions, they begin to talk about them, then they begin to now feel comfortable, and they have a level of trust with you because they don't realize it, but you just set up that environment to be conducive to trust. And people only do business with those they trust. Right. So in everything I've done, whether it's helping a company, improving a sales department, or teaching leadership, or in marketing, helping other brands, it's about proper communication. When I first got the disc of AOL in the mail, and I logged on, and all of a sudden I'm hopping into a chat room of 20 people in Los Angeles, California, I realized the world changed. Right. Changed. Yeah. And I sold a bunch of stuff off of AOL, and I realized business is about to change. And, I was making a whole lot of money off of MySpace. And when I was introduced to Facebook in 2008, I was like, what the crap it looked like a jail cell compared to MySpace.
When it first came out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was on Facebook, and I started to market a lot of my photography through Facebook as a business page. And I began to understand what was connecting people through the thread of the degrees of separation. When Facebook began to throttle the algorithm of exposure of your content, I realized they were headed to monetize that platform because they were a public company now. They have to find a way to make money by not just selling ads, and by us putting in our phone number, where we live, where we went to college, where we went to school, pages, shows we like, brands that we love to do business with. We're able to do reviews. We're able to tag ourselves when we go to certain places. I realized they're building the world's greatest, most strategically targeted database the world has ever seen. And I realized as soon as they allowed us as average Joes to monetize that, it was a game changer.
100%.
And sure enough, when it did, man, I was monetizing the crap out of what I was doing.
Were you?
And I began to realize that when it came to small business, this is who this was going to help the most. Because 20 years ago, when there was Yellow Pages, there was a billboard, there was local broadcast television or radio, you had to put a lot of nut into one ad. And it was sales focused because you couldn't afford to brand yourself off of emotion like Coke and Nike and General Motors. Social media allows small businesses to brand themselves, and they're also able to run ads that are creative, that have heart, directly to people that they can actually do business with. And with Instagram, with LinkedIn, YouTube, Google,
Snapchat,
I mean, it was
Reddit,
like every time something came up, I'm just going, oh my God, this is incredibly powerful. But nobody was really in it enough to go, this is how you leverage this though. So I'm not the brightest bulb in the package, but I know how to find people that are. And one of the lessons my grandfather told me, he said, as a manager or leader, it's not your job to know everything. It's your job to compile the people collectively that do. He goes, because you have to be resourceful. And that's one of the greatest setbacks for most people is we're in a day and age now where there's zero lack of resources, but most people don't know how to be resourceful. And it's like my kids, when they're doing homework and they're doing things that are already kind of beyond me, I don't try to do it for them. I ask questions for them to be resourceful enough to know where to find the answer to walk themselves through it. Right? Because teaching people the skill of resourcefulness is the greatest skill to set them up to succeed in anything in life if you give them that. If I give them the answer, if I do it for them, I'm setting them up to fail because now they're going to feel entitled that the world should do it for them rather than expecting themselves to do it for themselves because now they have the skill.
Like how did you actually get once you had just getting, obviously a lot of ideas about this is brilliant, right? Let's use this to market and help people. But how do you begin to build that team? Like, where did you even start with? I mean, was it really just organic marketing back then? Because I guess that's possible, right? Because back then it wasn't as saturated.
Well, it's like in business, but before digital, where do you go? You go to a chamber of commerce luncheon.
Sure. You
walk into a business and you start up a conversation because I love to hear people's stories. How long have you owned this place? What was your story? And then they start to ask you, what do you do? Because I never, even with my marketing, TECHCREW Media is my marketing company. And I started it after I left this big ad agency here in Houston that I realized the big traditional ad agency business model is set up to fail every business because they're basically real estate brokers of time. So the more time you buy, the more money they make. So they're not really results driven. If you didn't get the results you're looking for, well, you didn't buy enough time. Well, what I love about digital and social is you have metrics, you have insights, direct cause and effect. But what I love about digital social is if something's not working, you can quickly pivot.
Right. And inexpensive.
That's what I love about it.
And inexpensive, right? We're not talking about like $25,000 ad campaign on radio every month. We're talking about you can run $50 ads, $100 ads, and you can see some real impact. I don't know if that's the range of, pricing like that you're working with your clients, but it's possible, right?
When I look at hyper local businesses, because again, I'm a forensic guy. I want to figure out what's needed, how are things changing, and then how do we adjust? And then because most people can't grasp it, how can I help translate it? How can I help educate people? Because marketing behind acronyms and metrics and fancy words and fancy hairdos, they really bullshit people. And right now, most marketing, even digital and social, they're so tunnel visioned on Facebook marketers. They know Facebook, but they don't realize when Facebook changed the algorithm last year, they're telling their clients to be spending more money when it wasn't the account. It was two things. Their website was not meeting Google's demands, and because of that, Facebook is not going to reward you with higher reach and exposure if it's connected to a website that's not performing. And so there's some basics about the website. So when people don't understand the 90,000 foot view, that's where they end up just doing what they're being told to do because they're trusting the smart person that is in marketing.
Right.
So I realized business owners need to be educated to help them make a better buying decision, to know when they sit at the table with a nerd in marketing, in digital, website, coding, social media, they actually know they have the right question to know because now they have the right overview.
Right.
So for me, I've always been the guy, okay, let me just explain why billboards are effective if you do this with it. This, if you want to do, a sales promotion, this is how you need to drive attention to get the reaction. Everything's had a cause and effect. I loved guerrilla marketing with my traditional agency, and guerrilla marketing still holds true today through social media. But most small businesses in America, 28 million, a lot of them have the time and energy and even the money, but they want to do it themselves.
Right. And they're half-assing
because maybe they don't have enough.
Totally half-assing it.
So I realized small businesses need someone who wants to help educate. And there was one barbershop actually that was struggling. They were two different cities. Like, MD, look, we're struggling. We need to know what to do, but we can't afford to hire anybody to help us ongoing. I get it. They said, how can you help us? You know what you need? You need research to tell you exactly how to do. You need a blueprint to tell you how to do it on your own. So we did the research, and we did, literally through Business Manager, how to set up the ads. We did the audience building for them. How do they build it? The creative, the hashtags that will ban them, the hashtags that will get them in front of their local community. Who do they tag? What's their budget? The different audiences they create, as well as their organic content strategy.
Right.
Within 65, 70 days, they 6x'd both locations.
No way. Wow. So you're diving in deep with the business owner and saying, I'm not necessarily going to do it for you. I'm going to actually show you the blueprint and show you the map and give you all the tools that you need to succeed so that you can just take it and run with it. And then actually when you're making 10 times the money, you can come back and hire me and we'll do it for you. Absolutely. When you're so busy that you just can't do it anymore. Wow. My guys just created a new digital product we're about to roll out because one of the requirements of Google is you have to have a mobile-first website that loads in less than 3 seconds and is on a secure server. And when people go to your website, people navigate, they use it, they're on it, they're going through it. Google demands quality. You can't hack into meta tagging on the back end anymore. You can't buy these backlinks that are fake, just like buying followers on Instagram. Right.
The algorithm sees that. So, but to build websites that are truly mobile first, that are way different than mobile responsive, it's a different platform. Well, to do that customized is really expensive. And most small businesses, whenever I talk to them, they're like, oh my God, MD, that sounds amazing. Like, where do we start? And I give them the price tag. They're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? Right?
Right.
So we're about to roll this out to where for a much lower front end and then a monthly fee, we're going to build them fully customized, optimized, indexed with Google website that is going to allow them to now outperform because 90% of the websites out there are causing even the big brands to fail.
Right.
But Google has to rank somebody, so it's ranking the best of the worst. But the small businesses that are willing to jump in and really do this right
in a truly mobile first perspective, right? In a truly mobile first platform.
Yeah. And we're including a social media blueprint for them that's hyper local for their business.
That's amazing.
And it's like $2,500 up front and then $1,000 a month. And we maintain their site that if anything goes out of date, it's websites now with plugins and features. They need an update just like your cell phone or an app, right? When you build a website on Wix or GoDaddy templates, they're not mobile first. They're super load heavy. They take X amount of time to load. So when you look at a website and your bounce rate's, let's say 60%, that means 6 out of 10 people leave in less than a second. You're leaving 60% of business opportunities on the table because you're not investing in your site that could yield tens of thousands of business if you just did it right.
Right.
And then if into Google and you search AC repair in your city and you don't even come up, well, that means you're driving business to your competition because you're not even an option, because you're not investing in the website, which means if, let's say, there's 1,000 searches a month in your category and you don't come up, how much business are you leaving on the table?
Right. 100%. Absolutely.
But there still has to be, look, there's that upfront. What's the nut I can really put into this?
Right.
And $2,000 to $2,500, $1,000 a month, where we also offer the blogging twice a month that is driven on optimization and ranking, right? Not just blogging to be a blogger. There's a tactic behind it.
Right.
And then we give them the social media blueprint that they execute on their own. We're setting them up to succeed and win. Not setting a lot of these, buy into this, $100 a month kind of thing. They're buying into a cookie cutter system that is outdated, and they're shoving shit to people.
Right.
I mean, my own insurance agent, one day he was like, "Hey, MD, can you take a look at this report I got?" And he had an 80% bounce rate on his website.
Wow.
That should have been a red flag that caused the agency that built his website and offers them, insurance agency niche help.
Right.
If they realized the importance, they would have had this fixed a long time ago. They just don't care.
And look, that's somebody that his customers are not coming there looking for a new place to go try for dinner. They're coming there to get an insurance quote, like bottom line, right? Yeah. He's that close to closing deals. And if he's losing 80% of his traffic, that's crazy. So that's amazing, man. That's an incredible, and who'd have thought, right? You probably in a million years would have said 30 years ago, if you told me, after riding, competitively cycling, you were going to be running a marketing agency, right? And teaching people how to do social, like never, right? It never crossed your mind, even as a kid. It wasn't.
Man, I never saw myself. I didn't have aspirations to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I wasn't given that model. My parents were middle class, lower middle class. They were worker bees, and I wasn't given this blueprint for myself of what I could actually do in my life. I had to figure this out on my own. And it's scary as shit in entrepreneurship. Scary. And you question every day, is this something I should be doing? Like, should I hang this up?
Right.
But you just keep pushing. And when you keep really doing your best to really help people, in your heart, you really do want to help. It comes, there comes a point when everybody loses faith in you, because it's not meeting their conditions. And then you start to then believe what you're hearing, but you will become what you dwell on. So if you really do want to succeed at an endeavor that you're extremely passionate about, you will be resourceful enough to find a way. You will. But you have to quit listening to all these external voices, which is why I tell people, I don't care if you don't want negativity and hate to bother you. You shouldn't be allowing positivity and accolades to affect you either. You need to be net on the whole thing. Right. Because if your confidence comes from people giving you accolades, then you're also allowing yourself to be open to allowing negative emotions to affect you too, and second guess yourself. Absolutely. You've got to be able, I appreciate when people give me high fives and accolades. I love it, but I say thanks and I move on. A true champion needs no trophy. Right. Truly. Because a true champion, if they win, that's great, but they already know improvements they need to make. And a trophy's going to have 5 minutes of glory and a lifetime of dust when it's over. Right. Right. So I look at every win I get, and I tell my kids, there's this, on Instagram, just the handle is Charlie. And incredible story. You need to look him up. He had to start looking at all these things were going wrong in his life. And when you do that, you're overlooking all the things you have. We can waste a lifetime looking at all the things we don't have and never got. It caused us to feel down on ourselves. You didn't get that contract, you didn't get that deal, you didn't get that job, you didn't get that date with that girl you really want to get a date with. Right. You didn't get that promotion, you didn't get the raise. Okay, but what do you have? Oh, I'm actually winning. I'm on a winning streak when I think about it. I'm late, but you know what? I'm in this beautiful car. I'm on a winning streak. Right. For $2.35 that Charlie said, I got this espresso that made me feel really good. I'm on a winning streak. Right? You're choosing to reframe your perspective, because you're either going to allow everything around you to affect you, or you're going to finally stand up, take control back, and make decisions that give you the outcomes you really want. But most people, their decisions are not aligned with the outcomes they really want. They're leaving it to chance. It's like a boat in the ocean with no sail and no rudder. And yet they go, well, how did I end up here? Well, because you didn't put a sail up with a choice. You didn't put a rudder in the water with a decision to get you in the right direction where you want to go in your life. So you may have a lot of ambition, but practically, if you're not making the decisions that actually get you there, then you're leaving everything on the table and you're allowing everything else to control you.
And I got to be honest, you shared something earlier that was so striking, because we do look around and we understand, like from a social media perspective, and as a former photographer, that everybody is not just putting their best foot forward, but everything is so shiny and it's so look at me and it's so here's my Bentley that they maybe just rented from Enterprise. And here, right? Or standing next to a jet that who knows whose jet it is. It's a a rideshare program now for most of them. That sure, you might have 11 grand that you paid for a ticket to get on a jet one time. Right, you threw it all at a jet ride. Cool, man, that's awesome. More power to you. You got a picture out of it. It's neat. But and that's not to bag on people,
I can buy 100 grand of prop money on Amazon.
Yeah, let's go do it, man. Yeah, absolutely. Or I think that was the one that Gary said. They just went and took every nickel they had out of the bank, out of the ATM, just to floss and take a picture with it all fanned out, and then put it right back in the bank. But that's because that's what we believe, right? From a social media perspective, we believe that that's what we need to keep doing, is keep flossing, right? And keep it all really nice and shiny. But the truth is, and this is what I love about what you're doing with small business to help them really be them, right? And really develop and show who they are. And we're doing that too, right? So, and Tony and Gary and the rest of them are starting to really develop and nurture a culture of just realness, right? Just authentic, really transparent, right? Kind of a presentation rather than all the slick and cool. Because if Gary really wanted to, the reality is he could put up nothing but just him at, speaking engagements, and that's it. Just a rock star speaker and, the jet and travel and all that good stuff. He doesn't have to do, the one-on-ones that he has with people when he's just talking real talk, or grabbing somebody for 15 minutes. They get to come in and meet him. Right? Not even really a player in business, but he gives them an opportunity in having those conversations. Or the garage sale thing. Did you see that one recently? He went around garage sailing. Yeah, just cool stuff, man. And I think it's a great example. And I'm trying to do the same thing, like just really understanding. That's really the premise of Rebuilding Me, right? Is just let's strip it all away. Let's build it back up the way it really should be, and what we know is going to sustain us long term in our relationships. And then when you strip it all back, and you're in this Rebuilding Me, you then have to really look at who you are. What are your strengths? What are your gaps? And then what do you really want in life? Are these things that you're forcing yourself to think you want, or are these true desires of your heart? Right. And then you look at, okay, what are the choices that I'm making? So you look at your habits, because habits come from making the same choice over and over again. So if your habits and your decisions are not directly in line with the outcomes you want, then you have to take a step back and go, is this outcome something I really do desire? And then if you admit and go, you know what, no, that's something I feel like I was living in expectation of my dad or my brother, or a promise I made to somebody that's dead now, or I'm trying to live up to an expectation of my spouse who we've never really communicated about what you really want to fulfill in your life, versus take the expectations off of me because that's your fear, but it's my hope. So when you strip it all away and go, how do I rebuild me to create the life I want? What are the things I truly want? Okay, what do I have? What are the things I have right now to start day one? That's what I have to work on. That's what I have to work on. Okay, now what do I need to go further? Line them out. Right. Now, if there's some things you need that you don't have, what will it take to get those things? Then you line out the resources that you need to connect with to get those things you don't have yet. Right. As a triathlete, when I would do Ironman, when you're on that run, it's an out-of-body experience. And you've already swam. To put 3 sports in one day is stupid. To do them in a time frame you're trying to break the land speed record is just ridiculously stupid. Right. But the greatest takeaway that I have
from two periods of my life. One was in boot camp, and the other was being a triathlete. And boot camp, when the drill instructors are in your face, they're smoky bears cutting between the eyeballs, they're screaming, spitting on you, and you're freaking you out. The moment you look at them, they tell you, do not eyeball me, recruit. Well, how the hell am I supposed to look straight ahead yet not look at you? And I realized it was a skill of just because things in life are going wrong, things are getting crazy, things are overwhelming. Yes, they're there, but you look through them to the outcome you want. It doesn't mean you're ignoring it, but you're looking through it by looking through, you're removing a lot of the power of its ability to be affecting you, right? The other lesson I learned as a triathlete was when you get on that run, every step you take, you want to quit because it hurts like hell. And there was one race where I hit the wall. It was Florida. It was Panama City, Florida. It was 109 degrees outside, not a cloud in the sky, not a breeze to be blown. And I hit the wall. And my whole, like I got the cold sweats, I got the shivers, and I knew I've got a long way to go. But you know what? That day that I jumped off my front porch at 250 plus pounds, that was the day that I started. I didn't show up to quit.
Right.
So what do I need to do to finish this race? Well, the longer I think about how far away that finish line is, I'm going to want to quit because it's too far away. But you know what? I can get to that mailbox. I can get to that stop sign. Unless we find ourselves getting success as a habit, as it's consistent, we lose hope. So in life, you have to create benchmarks. Without benchmarks, it's too big.
Right.
So benchmarks need to be whatever they can be, but it needs to be something that's within sight because you have to be able to see that you're making progress. So when you start to rebuild your life and you look at the things you really want, okay, again, you go through, what do I have? How can I start? What do I need? What do I need to get? Everything else is going to unveil itself as you're moving forward because you've taken action.
Right.
But fear is like walking into a dark room. It's paralyzing because we can't see anything. So every time you make a decision to take action on what you know and what you have, and you focus on what you want versus the situation you're in, which is darkness and you're afraid, every time you make a choice, you begin to turn that light on just a little bit. And you begin to dispel fear because fear comes from a sense of uncertainty. You don't want anything bad to happen. You don't want to be rejected. You don't want to be disrespected.
Right.
So when you want things to actually happen in your life, in your marriage, in your career, in your endeavors, in your hobbies, and your ambitions, if you want them to truly fulfill themselves and manifest themselves in your life, then you have to make decisions that are aligned with the outcome.
Absolutely. And what were the things for you? So when you look back at, the last maybe 5-10 years, really kind of rebuilding it, what do you think were kind of 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 of the kind of top tools or books or resources or people that you pointed to go, okay, that's helping me, and that's a resource that I'm going to use going forward?
I didn't really start reading books when it came to business and all that until maybe 5-6 years ago, to be honest. I'm a practitioner of result. And when I was not getting the results that I needed, then where do I change? Now, as a triathlete, I went and sought out coaches. I bought a couple of books,
right.
But there was very little information out there. There was no YouTube, so I went to the resources I knew would have an answer, and not give me the answer, but help me if you can. What can I do for you so that I can learn how to be better at what I'm doing?
Right.
Now, and I never finish a book. I have not finished one book, but all the books that I've written, I have a bookcase over here full of books that I've read snippets of because I can get the gist within about 60% of the book.
Yeah.
But the one book that I recently did finish was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL, and he's all about taking full responsibility of your life. It was a reminder of something I'd already known, but his take on it is incredibly insightful. If you can, put a link to it because it's phenomenal. Check out his podcast too.
Yeah,
Jocko Willink. But I am not a fiction reader. I'm about psychology. Yep. I'm about habit. I'm about what can I input into my life to get me to think at things in a different way so that I don't succumb to becoming a victim in anything, whether that's in business, marketing, the internet. I'm doing webinars, and I'm watching videos and reading all the time about the way things are changing right now because I want to be ahead of the curve. Because if you're a professional, you're seen as an expert. If you're not giving people honest, credible, realistic information that's going to help that business improve versus helping my checking account, you're not doing good business. You're scamming people. You're a snake oil salesman.
Right. So
it's my duty. I'm obligated to be successful in what I do, because if there's things that I know, then I'm obligated to share that. Because there's somebody else that's 1 step or 5 million steps behind me that I wish I would have had access to what I know right now.
Absolutely.
So if I can use social media, if I can use podcasts, if I can use any medium or anything I can to help spread what I know, not everybody has the self-awareness to take a step back and go, okay, how can I fix me?
Right.
A lot of people have not been shown how to do that. That's why I like to keep things practical. Every podcast, yes, there's some marketing, there's business, there's one that talks about realtor marketing, and then there's one that talks about divorce because it's all framed under decisions and choices. So if I can help people make better decisions, then I'm helping them in a lot of ways. But for me, reading recently was, what's my stack right now? Rework is a great one when you're talking about workplace leadership. Radical Candor by Kim Scott, phenomenal book, a great read. The Definitive Book of Body Language, when you want to learn how to be better in sales and know how to control the conversation with somebody,
right.
That's a phenomenal book. The Life-Changing Art of Not Giving a Fuck, by far one of the greatest books.
Who's that by?
Hold on.
Yeah, grab it.
Sarah Knight.
Fantastic. We will absolutely link those up.
Yeah.
That sounds
But again,
right up my alley.
I'm a practitioner.
Yeah.
Like Who Moved My Cheese, right?
Right.
That's a great book.
Right.
Because, when people face dire circumstances, things went sideways, people get into a panic. They get it, and fear paralyzes them about what to do. We all need to find footing when we feel like we're falling. And what I found is, and Tony Robbins, again, a lot about Tony is kind of off. But Tony does some very practical things. And one of the things that he's been sharing a lot of is the Superman position. And when you're finding yourself in a slump, in a hard time, what's your body language? When you're depressed, you feel beaten, you slump forward, right? You feel beaten, your chin's down, your shoulders are forward. You don't feel confident. So what do you have to do? You have to make massive change. And by doing that with your physiology, by standing straight up with your feet slightly wider than your shoulders, your hands on your hips like a Superman, inflate your chest, get your chin up, and then inhale with demand and exhale with force for about 2 minutes. And you think about the things that you've accomplished. Think about the things that you have. That actually increases your testosterone about 30%, reduces your cortisol by about 25%. This has been proven by a Harvard study. What that does, and look, if you may go through scenarios 30 times a day. Do that 30 times a day, because that puts you now back in a position of reminding yourself of your capabilities. So now you're not letting a situation control your feeling of self-confidence that, again, is managed by yourself, not by a condition that didn't meet your expectation. And by doing that, it gets your blood going again. You're taking deep breaths, oxygenating your physiology, and it's getting your mental state and your emotional state in line with what you really want to do. It happens. Things get weird every single day. I deal with things with my kid's mom a lot. There's some conflict. And we get stressed when we feel like things that we value most are threatened. And we do not make good decisions out of emotional states. We don't. Right. So I do this. I've been doing this exercise for years. Matter of fact, I start my day off doing that. I go outside and I do that very thing. I deal with gratitude every day because I focus on the things I have, because we become what we dwell on. So if you want things to be great, if you always want things to be on a state of fulfillment and a drive moving forward, you have to remind yourself of all the things that you have, that you've attained because of making better decisions. So that change of physiology allows you to get up out of your slump and finally stand up and take action again. But you have to make a massive change. Now, whether that's sitting back in your chair with your hands over your head and your feet on the desk is another power position move. You can do the same thing. But standing up gets your body up and alive. It flexes the back, and it allows your heart to finally pump fully without constricting anything at your hip level. And it puts you in a position of authority again, to where you're now able to make better decisions by being logical instead of emotional. So if the boss comes hard on you, or you have an argument with the wife, or something just went weird, or let's say because you couldn't afford to pay some bills and now you got a repossession letter, okay, that sucks, but it doesn't mean your life is over. So stand up and remind yourself what you have, and then if you want things to be different, then what do you need to do right now to take action?
I just felt myself too. I felt like that jolt of like, oh my gosh, I'm not sitting up straight. But it's true. It's 100% true. Yeah.
If you want to be a winner in life, how do winners stand on the podium? And what do winners also do? They're also grateful. Thank you to so-and-so. Thank you to so-and-so. I couldn't have done this without so-and-so. So to be a winner tells you right then and there, you cannot win without being grateful. And winners also stand up tall because they're proud that their work brought them to the point that they actually won.
Man, Michael-David, you are an amazing human being, man. I am so glad our paths crossed. I have
Me too, Sal.
thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I want to do it again, for real. Like, I would love to continue not just the conversation, but also friendships, and stay in touch with you offline too.
Me too,
but
man.
Before we wrap this up, because I do want people to know how to get a hold of you, especially if because you're in the Houston area, is that right? Ish?
Yes.
Okay, so and now you're not just working with people only in Houston, right? You're also working with business owners,
clients all over
outside. Yeah, so all over the place. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
My direct email address is the initials MD, as in Michael David, at TECHCREWmedia.com. Also on Instagram, Facebook, 35K a day is the handle for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. But if you want to check out our website, TECHCREWmedia.com, TECHCREW Media. And we also have an Instagram and a blog that we dish out practical strategies that people can implement on their own all the time. And if through email, they can get, and 35K a day, I manage myself. That's my own personal thing.
Is it really? Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
That was my next question is, if somebody literally personally wanted to connect with you and just kind of swap stories and,
35K a day, send me a DM. The podcast of 35K a day is on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher.
How is the podcast going, man? I meant to ask you about that and circle back, but what's happening with it?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Getting a lot of listeners and a lot of shares. I'm really humbled by that, because the only thing I could ever hope is at least my shtick, my approach on things can be helpful to somebody.
Of course.
I think very binary, and sometimes that comes across as brash, but we tend to be so coddled by hypermotivation that we lose the gravity of how serious and the magnitude of our decisions are negatively affecting everything in our life.
Right.
And sometimes we need their stern voice to be able to wake us up. Not to say that all my podcasts are stern and in your face, but there are some realities that I discuss because I talk with a level of passion, because these are things that have helped me get through some of the darkest periods of my life.
Right. And
the practical things that I've gained and that I've learned have yielded a very fulfilling life. I want people to be able to take this and go, okay, that guy's been through some shit.
Right.
Like, because I look, you want to learn how to become sober? Listen to a drug addict or an alcoholic. Don't listen to a guy that's just learned theory from books.
Right. That's
not the guy that I'm going to listen to. Because I have respect for people that came through the trenches and they have scars and battle wounds from really figuring shit out. So the podcast is amazing because when it comes, they're all relevant to something I saw, something I'm going through, something I'm thinking about, and I want to help. I want to help, talk people through. Podcasts are great because we can still listen and do other things on our phone, do work. That's what I love about the podcasting format. I actually had one years ago before it was even a thing. It didn't trend well, but it was my first introduction to how much I enjoy it. But when you can sit down, put up a little bit of equipment, and share from the heart some practical things people can take away and actually use. If you want motivation, go to Tony Robbins. You want practical things to do, that's where I break it down.
Come see Michael-David. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And he does, like, nothing, not taking anything away from him, by the way. Like, Tony Robbins does a great job, right? And his
Yes.
right, his audience is his audience, and if you follow him, that's fantastic. If you have $5,000 to drop on a day workshop with him, all fantastic, more power to you. Go ahead and do that. But for those of us that maybe don't have either the resources to get with somebody that's a big name coach like that, or even pay the $350 an hour for somebody smaller, the service that you're providing, Michael-David, no question, man, is just incredible.
Well, I see the thing that I've seen with social media is my I Decide campaign. When I started to put on social media, people, I took my quotes that I write myself in my journals. I don't write like, oh, I had a shitty day, or, oh, this was an amazing part of the day. I write statements that are practical for me. And so there was a photo shoot that I did, and it wasn't used by the company. And it was a runner going up bleachers. And the poem that I wrote, I Decide, if you go to I Decide I Am on Facebook, you'll see the poem. And it's the personification of when people go, God, MD, like, how do you do these triathlons? How do you run for a marathon? How do you ride your bike for 150 miles? How do you do that? It's a choice. Every pedal stroke is a choice. How did I go from a cyclist to then being grossly overweight, back to a triathlete, then becoming a bodybuilder? Like, how did my body make all those changes?
Right.
Well, I decided to. Every single rep, every single meal, every single mile, everything was a choice.
Right.
And my friends were like, dude, you need to do something with that poem. Like, that was motivating. Okay, so I did. Then people were like, MD, where can I get that poster? Well, shit, there's no poster. That was just a post on Facebook. And then I realized,
I guess I'm in the poster business now. Fantastic. People were looking for some real binary nuggets, and that's why I Decide the campaign itself is actually black and white. Oh, that's cool, man. Very cool.
Because you either make the decisions or you don't.
Yeah.
So I started putting these quotes, and I started seeing these quotes show up on other people's posts, on people's photos. And then it started to change from fitness to relationships, to marriage counseling, to addiction recovery, right. Real life shit. And I got email, not me personally, with I Decide, it's first person for a reason. These are narratives you should be adopting into your thinking.
Exactly.
Right? It's not me telling you to do something. This is what gets you through. So I never wanted to be the face of it. Now there's a video on YouTube, Our Greatest Power Choice by Michael-David. And to me, it's one of my favorite videos. And I know that sounds weird, but it was non-scripted, off the cuff, no editing whatsoever. And I just spouted what I believe to be our greatest power, which is choice, and what that is. And I started to get a lot of emails, some that still, when I think about it, brings me to tears because of what I Decide did and what this wristband did. I don't sell them anymore. I sold a lot, but it saved a woman from slicing her wrist open. And sorry.
No, take your time.
I've had moments in my life like that. I think we all have when we are honest. But to know that I feel my obligation in my life is to help people when they feel hopeless. I didn't have a family that taught me hope. And I feel like I've been blessed with this thing that I don't deserve because of all the things that I've messed up in my life, because of all of my repetitive bad choices. And if I can take something that helped me get through a dark time and realize it's my responsibility to fix, then I can help that person that feels hopeless because the world isn't living up to their expectation, when they can actually change their outcome by using the greatest power they were ever given.
Right.
Because you can change your outcome in an instant. If you're addicted, you can get help.
Right.
If you're in an abusive relationship, you can step out and get help. If you're in a job you hate, you can step out and you can find a different one. If you're in a relationship that you find is toxic, you can get out of it. If you don't like the shoes you're wearing, you can get new ones. Everything comes down to our greatest power. And I just want to help people. Bottom line, that is my purpose. And whether that is taking the things I learned in marketing and helping business owners truly scale their dream, because I respect that day one for them. And if they grew their business to the point that they could actually afford to hire somebody outside of their company that didn't bleed with them, I have massive respect for that.
Right.
I want to help them in the best way possible. If somebody is going through a really hard time in their life and they feel hopeless, and something I said can give them hope, then I've done it.
Man, you got me. It is not often, I've been doing this a long time, right, behind a mic. It's not often that I get caught and get a little misty, but you got me on that one, because I identify with you 1,000%. And with the lady that you helped through that time, I was taught similar things, right? I was taught that blowing the entire family fortune on drugs and alcohol and partying and just impressing people is okay. I was taught that putting a gun to your chin and putting it through your skull is okay. Thank God my dad lived through that, right? But that would come full circle as an adult. And it wasn't like I set out on a course to go get a hold of somebody's gun and threaten suicide, but it happened, right? And it's a direct result of not taking full ownership of, okay, I get it that happened. It's shitty, right? Sometimes parents they can do what they can do, right? They fulfill whatever their maximum capacity is. They can't do any more than that. So it is what it is from that perspective. But you're right. I was 100% at that point, needing to take control over my decisions and what the trajectory of my life was going to be, and not let it fall into that. But I've known those moments, and I know what it's like to feel like your life was set up that way, and that there's no way out. And I'm so glad, man, that you're a part of that.
My mom through her mental illness had an extremely violent temper. And I was the victim at the hand of that for a lot. And I remember how that made me feel. And I knew I wanted a family one day, and I never wanted my kids to ever feel the way that my mom made me feel. Now, my mom loved me. I can't ever discount that. My mom has passed. But she had zero discipline and zero accountability to what she was doing to me. And I'm sorry doesn't fix it. However, through my self-discovery, I realized that to stay in a state of being a victim of all that is allowing that to continue to control me and affect me. And just because it happened doesn't mean that that's what I continue to be. That's my choice.
Right.
So I realized all these things happen to us, but it's actually just a simple opportunity to show us how resilient we are and how different we are from the circumstances that are around us. We're not circumstances. We are ourselves. We are on a winning streak because as bad things happen, so do good things. And people talk about life being ups and downs. It's really not. It's actually two parallel tracks. And when you're going through a hard time, you just stay focused on the good things you have going on, because that's going to get you through the hard times, because it's a parallel. Absolutely.
Man, thank you so much for sharing your story and for the work that you're doing. Again, the podcast, is it the same name? It's 35K a day as the podcast, or is that a different name?
35K a day.
Okay.
So, for all things practical, empowerment, and just my nuggets of knowledge in that aspect is 35K a day on all social media platforms and podcasts. Anything marketing business is still going to be thrown in that podcast, but
right.
Business specific is TECHCREW Media on Instagram and Facebook, and then on our website with our blog. So
I'm definitely I'm going to check it out. I'm going to link it up too. So anybody else that wants to check out Michael David's podcast, please do click on the link. Yeah. I'll check it out, and then I don't know. Maybe we'll do this again soon. We haven't even. I mean, I know we just barely scratched the surface. Right.
I had the same feeling too. Yeah.
But it'll be fun to check back in with you and see how things are going in a few weeks or a few months or something like that. But man, thank you so much. I'm honored that you would even reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, let's do it." I was floored. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta actually produce a show now for real. If I'm gonna have this guy on, it's gotta be the real deal. But at least we didn't have to do the location with the studio and the lights and the whole thing. But so I appreciate you jumping on. Yeah, Facebook video, just get it done. Just jump on and have a conversation. Yeah. That's part of the Rebuilding Me deal is. Because it is, from a place of transparency. I mean, certainly soon, we'd love to have a group of guys in a room, right, and actually have a conversation with a few different people, at the same time and answer questions. And
we should do that.
But this is just as good. There's how many eyeballs are going to be able to see this in the next couple days.
When
the fun part.
We're in a point in our society where people are looking for answers. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there. People hoard motivation, but they don't do anything with it. Right? They go to every Tony Robbins seminar, but they don't do anything with the information they're getting. And so that's why they keep finding themselves with the same outcomes. So when you can take your principles and then come up with a way that you can practically bring people together to help them where they are, that's when you create a ripple effect that has a lasting impact. Because, as much as I speak publicly, I love doing Q&A because people will hear what I'm talking about, whether it's, leadership or empowerment or business and marketing, but they still want to know they have a particular pain point in their life or in their business, and they love what I said on a general level, but they want to know how it can apply to their specific problem.
Right.
And when you take people together like that in a group, now it becomes hyper practical because now you're talking about relevancy in their pain points.
Right.
And that's when you make the most impact.
Michael-David Reilly, thank you so much, my man. I seriously cannot thank you enough for spending the time. I know we took a lot longer than we wanted to, so I know you got to get back to your day, and just so thankful for you and the work that you're doing, and for hopefully a new friendship that will, last some time. So we'll check in soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks again.